Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel, and what I have here is the first camera test for 2018, and this is between the Galaxy S9 versus the iPhone 10, and we're going to test these smartphone cameras in different situations, in daylight and in low light. And first we'll start with the front-facing camera, and on the Galaxy S9 you have a front-facing camera that is 8 megapixels with an f1.7 aperture lens, 1.22 micron pixel size with autofocus, and video recording at 1440p 30 frames a second. And the iPhone 10 is a 7 megapixel iSight camera that records in 1080p 30 frames a second with an f2.2 aperture and with fixed focus. So what we're going to do is test out the image quality in daylight and low light, and we're going to put these cameras through the paces. What we're going to do now is start with the front facing camera where we're testing out the image quality and the stabilization in daylight. What we're going to do is just take a walk to see how the image quality and the stabilization works. Change it to a small little run. And walk it off. Welcome to the first camera test of 2018, and this is between the newly announced Galaxy S9 and this is going to go against the iPhone 10, and I'm going to run you through the rear camera main specifications of both these phones, and that is first starting with the Galaxy S9. The Galaxy S9 has a 12 megapixel camera and also a world first to the current date with an f1.5 aperture and also the new dual aperture lens mode where it allows you to change from f1.5 to f2.4 automatically or manually in pro mode depending on your lighting situation, a 1.4 micron pixel size, optical image stabilization, and a new super speed dual pixel autofocus for better noise reduction and super fast continuous autofocus. You now have support for 4K 60 frames a second, 1080p 240 frames a second in slow motion, and also the super slow motion at 720p at 960 frames a second. Now with the iPhone 10 you have a dual 12 megapixel camera with an f1.8 aperture lens, optical image stabilization, face detection autofocus, a telephoto zoom lens with ×2 optical zoom with an f2.4 aperture with optical image stabilization and hybrid autofocus. The iPhone 10 also does support 4K 60 frames a second and 1080p 240 frames a second in slow motion. Now disclaimer, this is a pre-production model that I'm using with the Galaxy S9. The official release date is on the 16th of March, so many software updates can be updated to this phone to have any fixes sorted, but within that meantime this is what I have now that I'm using, and I'm using both these phones in automatic mode. So I've set them automatically and I'm going to go through different video shooting modes as well as pictures. So let's head to the main camera test with video starting first. So this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. What we're doing is just testing the image quality and the stabilization in daylight. The iPhone 10 does have a telephoto zoom lens camera with optical image stabilization. So what we're going to do is stop. We're going to times 2 zoom, and see how the image quality and the stabilization works when zoomed in 4K. So again, this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. What we're going to do is test the video stabilization by taking a run. So again, this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. What we're going to do is ×2 zoom and ×2 zoom and test out the image stabilization by taking a run while zoomed in. So this is now the 4K 60 frames a second video recording mode on both the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. And yes, finally Samsung have enabled the high frame rate 60 frames a second recording mode in 4K. And again, what we're doing is just testing out the image quality, the stabilization in daylight. So this is the full high definition 1080p video recording mode at 30 frames a second on the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. And again, we're just testing out the image quality and the stabilization in daylight. So we're testing out the autofocusing speed on the Galaxy S9, and this is supporting the new super speed dual pixel autofocus for better noise reduction as well as ultra fast continuous autofocus in video. And we're testing this out in 1080p, and we're going to use the Galaxy Note 8 as the subject. Looks like it's really hunting and working really fast. Dual pixel autofocus working like a charm in continuous video mode in 1080p. And now we're going to test the autofocusing on the iPhone 10, and this is also in 1080p 30 frames a second, and this is using focus pixels with face detection autofocus. So we're going to test out how fast the autofocus is in continuous video mode in 1080p, and we're going to use again the Galaxy Note 8 as the subject. It seems to also be working really good. So you can judge for yourself which one out of the two focuses quicker. So this is the 4K video recording mode at 30 frames a second between the Galaxy S9 versus the iPhone 10. And what we're doing is we're testing the image quality and the stabilization and also the low light performance at night. The iPhone 10 has a ×2 telephoto zoom lens as a secondary lens with optical image stabilization. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop, we're going to ×2 zoom, ×2 zoom on the Galaxy S9 and see how the image quality and the stabilization works out. So this is the 4K 60 frames a second video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 versus the iPhone 10. And finally, Samsung have enabled the 4K 60 frames a second video recording mode on the new Galaxy S9. And we're testing it against the iPhone 10 to see how the low light performance, the image quality, as well as the stabilization works in low light. So this is the 1080p video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. And again, we're just comparing the image quality, the stabilization, and also the low light performance of both these phones. And what we're going to do is stop. We're going to ×2 zoom. And check out the image quality on both. So this is the front-facing selfie video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 versus the iPhone 10. The Galaxy S9 is recording in 1440p 30 frames a second quad high definition, whereas the iPhone 10 is recording in 1080p 30 frames a second. Looking at these two, both are looking comparable in low light, but would have to wait to test and see how they both compare. So now with this first selfie shot of myself in low light, I would say that the Galaxy S9 is doing a much better job. You get a wider field of view, there is less noise, and also a much sharper image and better brightness. There is more noise in the iPhone 10. I definitely prefer what I'm seeing with the Galaxy S9. Let me know which one you prefer out of the two. I would say that the S9 is doing a much better job here. So with this next shot of this with the selfie flash, I would say that the S9 is still doing a better job. I do prefer what I'm seeing. It's a much brighter and a sharper image. Let me know which one you prefer out of the two. This next low light shot of the cabinet, I'll definitely say that the colors are much better on the iPhone 10, much more natural, but you do get a sharper image with less noise reduction on the Galaxy S9, but it's really down to personal preference. I do like the image that I'm seeing where it's sharper on the Galaxy S9 and it's clearer, but I do like the natural color tones of the iPhone 10, but let me know which one you prefer. And again, with this next shot with the illuminated flashlight on both, you can see that the slow sync flash on the iPhone 10 really gives a nice balance, but you do get a much sharper brightness from the light on the Galaxy S9, so that might be preferred for some, but it really is down to personal preference. I really do like the slow sync flash on the iPhone 10, but the brighter and the sharper image is on the Galaxy S9. Again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two. And so with this next image, both these cameras are struggling to retain the yellow underneath the Europcar sign. Apart from that, they look pretty even, but you do get ever so slightly better highlights and exposure on the Galaxy S9 if you look around the lights, but apart from that, they're pretty much even in terms of the sharpness, the noise reduction, and the detail in low light, but both are struggling to retain the yellow underneath the Europcar sign. Again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two. You can see that the recovery of the yellow underneath the Europcar sign has been retained, and now you see that the color temperatures have slightly changed. The S9 is going for a slightly warmer color temperature, where you do have a much more cooler color temperature on the iPhone 10. Again, it is really down to personal preference, but both are holding up really well in terms of the noise reduction. You probably get a slightly sharper image because of the telephoto zoom lens with optical image stabilization on the iPhone 10, but both are holding up really well. Let me know which one you prefer out of the two. So this next shot here is where the Galaxy S9 really comes into its own. You have much better noise reduction, much better low light performance. You do get much better color rendition of the yellow underneath the Europcar sign as well, and a much cleaner image. I think this is where the f1.5 aperture in low light and automatic mode really starts to shine. The iPhone 10 is doing a good job as well, but I'll definitely say that you do get a much more vibrant and a cleaner low light image on the Galaxy S9. That's definitely the one I prefer, but the iPhone 10 is holding up really well. And again, when you zoom in, funny enough, the Galaxy S9 is holding up pretty well, but as you can see, both are struggling in terms of noise reduction, but they're both in the same par. But I would say that the telephoto zoom lens with optical image stabilization does help the iPhone 10 a little bit more, but the iPhone 10 also is being held up against the S9 really well. The S9 is holding up well. Again, let me know which one you prefer. I'm really surprised how well the S9 is holding up without a telephoto zoom lens. And again, this next shot of the bush, you can see that there is less noise and a much sharper image in low light on the Galaxy S9, which is really testament to the aperture and also the new image signal processing with better noise reduction. The iPhone 10 is definitely looking soft. I'll definitely prefer the colors that I'm seeing very well separated between the bushes on the Galaxy S9. Let me know which one you prefer. I think the Galaxy S9 is doing a much better job here. And this last low light shot of myself, this is from the main camera, and both are doing the best job that they can, but I think the Galaxy S9 definitely is going in with a much brighter and a sharper image of the foreground of myself. You do get a nicely balanced color on the iPhone 10, which is much more pleasing in terms of the colors, where the balance is right there, but I think a clearer and a sharper image is what you're seeing of the object, which is myself on the Galaxy S9. But again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two. Now, starting with the first daylight shot, this is a direct shot of the statue against the sun. This is a real test of dynamic range and also testing the variable or the dual aperture mode, where the automatic change to f2.4 to really balance out the light, and both are doing a really good job. The iPhone 10 maybe has a slightly brighter image where you can see a bit more detail in the rocks, but you can see a bit of shadow retention within the statue on the Galaxy S9. Both are pretty much equally doing a great job in terms of handling the dynamic range, but really down to personal preference. Again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two and which one won it out. And here's another test of dynamic range, and I would definitely say that the iPhone 10 is actually doing a really good job. If you see the trees at the bottom of the image, you can see a much brighter image and you can make out the trees more with the iPhone 10. The Galaxy S9 is doing a great job, but definitely I would say this particular shot, the iPhone 10 really reduced the brightness of the sun to be able to keep the detail of the trees within the image. So let me know which one you prefer. I do like the iPhone 10 in this particular one, but the Galaxy S9 is doing a great job with the dynamic range. This next picture of the statue, you can really see the difference in the color profile between the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. The Galaxy S9 is going for a much more punchy, more vibrant color profile, where you can see in the grass where it's much more punchy, where the iPhone 10 is much more neutral. Both are doing a really good job. It's really down to personal preference. You can see probably better retention of the shadows with the statues in the Galaxy S9, where you do have a slightly brighter image, but it might be slightly overexposed on the iPhone 10. But again, it's really down to personal preference. Let me know which one you prefer out of the two. And again, as you ×2 zoom, surprisingly, the Galaxy S9 is holding up really well. I think the noise reduction is really kicking in to really reduce any noise reduction when you zoom in, but both are doing a really good job. It's really down to personal preference. Let me know which one you prefer. It's really split down the middle. So this next picture of the leaves, you can see that the color rendition from the Galaxy S9 is definitely more vibrant, whereas the iPhone 10 is much more neutral. It's really down to personal preference. I'd probably say that the balance on the iPhone 10 is, more pleasing to people and more natural, but the vibrancy might be more catchy. But it's really down to personal preference of which one you prefer. So this shot with the daylight selfie of myself, you do get a wider field of view with the Galaxy S9, which is more pleasing, a slightly sharper image as well, and the exposure and the highlights are well balanced, where with the iPhone 10 you do get a crop much closer to your face. And the only problem that I do have is, although the colors are much more natural and very pleasing, the exposure and the highlights around my head and the surroundings are really blown out, and it's something I've seen as a characteristic on the iPhone, but it's really down to personal preference. I definitely prefer the selfie performance in daylight on the Galaxy S9, but let me know which one you think. So this next selfie is the portrait selfie mode on both these cameras. The Galaxy S9 is known as Selfie Focus, and with the iPhone 10 is portrait lighting mode, and both are actually doing a really decent job. The edge detection around both these phones are not bad at all, and you do get different options with the iPhone 10 in terms of the portrait lighting mode as well as the studio light. And with the Selfie Focus, you do get to change and actually have the background blur on or off. It's really down to personal preference. The iPhone 10 is definitely looking much more natural and darker in the image, where you do have a slightly brighter image with the Galaxy S9 and a wider field of view. But again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two. And here's another portrait selfie mode picture on both these phones, and they're pretty much exhibiting the same characteristics. So again, let me know which one you prefer out of the two as you're seeing it in front of you now. Now with this next shot, although it looks like summer, it was cold and the snow was coming down, and you can definitely see the different color temperatures and the color profiles that the iPhone 10 and the Galaxy S9 is going for. The Galaxy S9 is a lot more punchy with more contrast, where the iPhone 10 is going for a much more neutral look. But the clouds and the blue in the sky are much more punchy with the iPhone, so it's really down to personal preference in terms of the sharpness and the detail that you get. Let me know which one you prefer out of the two. Now this next shot with my wife in the picture, both are doing a really good job, and it's again really down to personal preference. From what I'm seeing of the foreground with her in the picture, the Galaxy S9 is giving off a much more brighter image, where the iPhone 10 is a bit slightly darker, but again, it's really down to personal preference. I do like the bright image of the Galaxy S9, but both are looking really good and well balanced. And with this next shot, it's really hard to tell the difference between the two. I think the colors are slightly more natural on the iPhone 10, but the colors are really nice and vibrant on the Galaxy S9. The sharpness and the detail are really retained well on both phones. It's really down to personal preference. Let me know which one you prefer. And this last shot of the daylight is the portrait mode on both these phones. The Galaxy S9 is known as Selective Focus, and because of the single camera lens, it was difficult to get this shot, I will be honest with you, but I was able to get it. And with the dual camera lens on the iPhone 10, it was definitely a lot easier to get the portrait shot in there. And both are actually doing a decent job. I would say that the background blur separation between the foreground of her being in the object is definitely a lot more aggressive and a lot better on the iPhone 10. And that's just really down to the second telephoto zoom lens using for depth mapping and being able to blur out the background. I think with the Galaxy S9 Plus will be a lot better because of the live focus mode compared to the S9 with the single camera lens. But both these are looking good in terms of the portrait mode, but yeah, the iPhone 10 will look slightly better, and also you will get different portrait modes that you can switch between on the iPhone 10. So what's my initial overall conclusion to this camera test between the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10? I'll definitely say that the new f1.5 aperture with the dual aperture on the Galaxy S9 really helps it to be a new benchmark setter for low light performance for video and pictures, and with the new noise reduction, this is really good to see the best low light performance so far that I've seen in a while, and I can only see this getting better with software updates. The high frame rate video shooting modes that have been put into the Galaxy S9 are really nice to see. The 4K 60 frames a second, the super slow motion at 720p 960 frames a second, as well as 1080p 240 frames a second are really good for those that enjoy videography like myself on their smartphone. This is really nice addition and touches to it. The iPhone 10 still holds up with great dynamic range and flexibility with that second telephoto zoom lens with optical image stabilization for easier portrait mode. And I will definitely revisit this test with the Galaxy S9 Plus to see how live focus holds up against the portrait mode and the different portrait styles that you can actually put through on the iPhone 10. This is really nice addition and touch. Now both these cameras are awesome and possibly going to be two of the most popular cameras that you can get on a smartphone in this year, and let me know what you guys thought, and let me see which one was your favorite out of the two. Now I hope you guys enjoyed this camera test between the Galaxy S9 and the iPhone 10. There's many camera tests that I've got planned, so definitely consider subscribing, and also when you do subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell so you are first to see all the latest coverage and videos on the Galaxy S9 on the Lover of Tech channel. And again, I'm your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel. I'm signing out, and again, trust me, you will see me next time.